What's up guys, welcome back to Black Belt Secrets. Today I've got 5 top tips for your side splits. Anyone who does martial arts or gymnastics or sports generally ultimately wants to increase their flexibility at some point. The ultimate is for side splits. Front splits are great, side splits are just awesome. There's just one problem, it's really difficult. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of stretching, a lot of pain, hiccups along the way, setbacks. You never quite know whether you're doing the right thing. You look up all sorts of guidance and you never quite know whether you're doing the right thing or not. So here are my top 5 tips for you getting your side splits. Here we go. Number 1, most important thing is you cannot stretch a weak muscle. If the muscle is weak, it's not going to stretch very well because there's not much of it to stretch. If you imagine a really thin elastic band, it's going to snap quite easily, it's going to get torn quite easily, and it's just not very easy to stretch if the muscles aren't very strong. It's going to take a long time, it's going to be painful, and you won't get very far. So the number 1 tip is you have to strengthen the muscles. That might be doing simple squats, side lunges, anything like that, anything that generally builds up the strength in the muscles overall in the legs. You don't need to focus on any one particular part of the leg, but you just need, generally all the muscles in the legs need to be stronger. Generally, I will go for lunges, front lunges, rear lunges, side lunges. As long as you're getting your weight down and using your legs to push your weight back up again, generally that's going to strengthen the correct muscles that you'll need to strengthen before you can stretch them enough that you'll be going for your side splits. Tip number 2, little and often. So many people are so eager to get into their side splits that they do an hour stretching twice a day, every day. The legs get sore, they give up by the end of the week, and they feel like they've got nowhere, even though they've put in a lot of pain and effort and persistence for that week, but it didn't work. The reason it didn't work is you're not giving your legs time to heal. This is very much dependent on you, and going back to tip number 1, whether your legs are strong or not. Stronger legs generally heal faster, which is another reason tip 1 is a very good idea. But overall, the recovery time will be down to you. It's a very subjective thing. So you'll need to listen to your body. You'll do some stretching. If you are sore on the next day, that's sort of all right, as long as it's not really painful. If you are still sore 2 days later, or worse, 3 days later, then you've done too much stretching on that particular day. So you need to listen to your body when your muscles feel like they could be stretched again without compounding any soreness from the previous stretching. That's the right duration between the stretching periods. But little and often will help your muscles recover much more quickly, so you can actually do a lot more stretching within that week or few weeks than you would do if you do lots of stretching in one big heavy session. If you stretch for a big long hour or 2 hours long, then your muscles are going to be extremely damaged and going to take time to recover. This doesn't just mean that it's going to take you longer to recover. What it actually means is some of the muscles are going to repair with what we call scar tissue. Now, scar tissue doesn't really stretch very well, and it will detract from your overall flexibility in the long run anyway. It will need to get repaired and rebuilt with normal muscle tissue before you can fully stretch that out again. Again, little and often, I can't emphasize enough. So any time that you get during the day, it can be 2 or 3 minutes here and there, as long as your muscles are warmed up just a little bit by a little bit of movement and a little bit of light stretching. Little and often is much better than big heavy sessions. Tip number 3, stretching in the morning. I can't emphasize enough that when you get out of bed, it's really important to get your legs moving, get your arms moving, get everything moving, not just your legs if you're stretching your legs. Get your whole body moving. Just a little bit of movement gets the blood flowing through all of the muscles, clears out any old toxins, any old dead cells that have been repaired and replaced, and it will get your body ready for the day ahead. But that is also the best time to stretch off, because it will give your body the full day to then start recovering for proper stretching sessions later on in the day, but the morning stiffness will compound throughout the day. If you've got stiff joints in the morning and then you go to work, you sit down at work, you sit at a desk or you're driving or whatever it is you're doing, you're just compounding that stiffness in the legs, in any of the other joints, without freeing it up first. This compounded stiffness in the muscles and the joints is what's going to have a detrimental effect to your training and your stretching long run. Think about it. Every morning, if you are stiff first thing in the morning and you compound that throughout the day by sitting positions and stationary positions, then When it comes to training, most of us train in the evening for proper training. If you then throw stretching into that evening training session, you've got a stretching session on top of compounded stiffness, muscle and joint stiffness that started in the morning. And if you do this day in and day out, then every morning that you're stiff, you compound that throughout the day. Then if you try and stretch in the evening, by the time it comes to the evening, your joints and your muscles are stiff anyway. You're going to have a difficult job getting them out of that stiffness into a training and flexible mode to get the best out of your stretching. So morning stretching, please get up, even just touching your toes, sit down, spread your feet, see how wide they go, move yourself around, shake your legs off, circle the knees, whatever it is, little bits. Again, going back to tip 2, little and often. Every morning, that is often. A little bit, every morning, you can combine these together. So every morning, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of movement, all will add up throughout the course of the week. And then by the time you come to your proper stretching, you'll get so much more out of it. Tip number 4, don't stretch cold muscles. This is blanket advice which applies to 95% of people who are trying to get more flexible. Now, I've been stretching and training for 25 years. So my body is conditioned and trained and prepared to get into very flexible positions very quickly without too much of a warm-up. But rest assured, there is always some sort of a warm-up going on. It isn't just get out of bed and then throw the leg right in the air. That's not how it works. You need to warm the muscles up first. There has to be a blood flow. Muscles are elastic. If they are dead cold, then they aren't going to be very flexible. If you are in an already very, very flexible state, your muscles are already very long, that's different. If you can already drop straight into side splits when you get out of bed, then you've no need to watch this video because you've already got there and you've got the flexibility. But if you're working up to it or you're working to maintain it, you can't stretch a cold muscle. It's not going to work. All you're going to do is stretch a contorted, contracted, stiff muscle. You're going to cause more breakage of the muscle fibers. It will result in more scar tissue. It will be painful. It won't heal very well. The blood flow is not going. You'll get congested cells when the muscle's trying to repair itself. It's a whole compounded problem. You are much better off warming the muscles up first. Even that is just shaking the legs off or doing a little bit of bouncing around. Literally 2 or 3 minutes, doesn't take very long. 2 or 3 minutes gets the blood flow going. Your muscles will be that much warmer. Very quickly they can get warm and you'll be so much better off stretching a warm muscle than a cold one. 5th and final tip, but don't forget there's a bonus at the very end, is make sure you build time for stretching after your training. So many people do their training, whether it's cycling, running, martial arts, gymnastics, whatever, and then go home, eat, sleep, and don't build time in for the stretching. I ask everyone I meet, did you stretch after you train? Usually it's a little bit of a guilty, no, not really, because they know they didn't, they know they should. Just by the fact that I'm asking, they know that they should have done. So build in time for your stretching after you've done training. Your muscles will be in a warm, flexible, dynamic state with the blood pumping through, and it's got to be straight away, because as soon as you stop training, your body knows you've stopped training, you leave, the blood flow slows down, your heart rate slows down, the muscles get cold, they all contract, they go into recovery mode, and that's not the best time then to be going to stretch your muscles. You need to be stretching your muscles when they're in the optimum, warm, flexible, dynamic state with lots of blood flow going through so that you can really elongate the muscles to the extent that they have already reached. Then you can stretch them a little bit further. Let's remember what stretching is. Stretching isn't forcing a muscle into the longest length that it can be. That's just elongating the muscle. Stretching is taking it beyond your current range of movement, just a little bit each time so that it becomes accustomed to it, it repairs, and the length of your muscle will change. But it can only change over time. It can't just suddenly change. But you can only do this when it's already comfortable to get into its longest state. If your arms or your legs are really stiff and you can only just about open it to that degree, then that's not the best time to stretch it. That's going to be like that first thing in the morning. It's going to be like that just when you start training. But all of those are just getting it to the full range of movement. So then when you come to the end of your training, you can get to your full range of movement easily and take it that little bit further beyond that. That is true stretching. Then every time you do that, there'll be a little bit more each time at the very end of that training session. You'll stretch it, take it beyond the extent just a little bit each time. So please build in time at the end of your training, even if it's 5-10 minutes. Again, little and often from our other tips, little and often, but even if it's 5 minutes every time you train, that's a little bit, but it's often if you're training often, and build that in. You will see the results far more quickly if you apply this stretching at the end of your training. And as promised, the bonus for this stretching video is a device that I've come across called the Psy Stretcher. Now, I first saw this floating around on Facebook. So with all the usual precautions, you need to have your muscles warmed up. You need to be at the right time of day. You need not to over push it to such extremes that it's painful. And you need to do it for a relative amount of time that is suitable for you, and wait a right amount of time before you stretch again. This device actually is really useful. And here's how it works. So just to test out just how useful this device was, I sat down fairly cold, but not stone cold muscles, and just to see what my range of flexibility was without too much warm-up stretching or any other kind of stretching. I use this Psy Stretcher to incorporate in my warm-up stretching, which usually entails either feet wide, feet in the air to use gravity to fall, various different stretches like that. And I used it as a tool to help improve the speed of that process. And actually I was really quite impressed with how quickly it got my legs to the full range of motion without too much fuss at all. There's several adaptations of using it. You can use it with seated front stretches, you can use it with high section kick stretches, and you can use it with the traditional sit down, feet wide, side split stretch. But this seems to overcome one of the problems that most people have when they're doing feet wide stretching, is the feet slip back in. This is really irritating, especially if you're on a slippery floor like mine is here. The really irritating thing is the feet slip back in. So unless you are really on top of and pushing the weight down, which can result in overstretching too quickly or warm-up stretching too quickly, feet coming in is really annoying. The Psy Stretcher goes around the back, attaches to the feet, and actually just gives that little bit of resistance as though you've got a partner. Now, I would say it's important that you use this as a tool rather than forcing the legs wide. It's not going to be something that forces your legs into a much further stretch position, but what it will do, it will help you to hold the stretch position a little bit further than you would do if your feet are slipping in. And it also focuses the stretching efforts on the correct muscles. I really was impressed on how it focuses the stretch in just the right areas for that side stretch position. So if you'd like to get your hands on one of these, I'm going to choose a random winner. All you need to do is like this video and subscribe, share this video with your favorite group on Facebook, come back and leave me a comment in the box below so that I know that you've done it, and I'll put you on the list. And in the next video, I'll announce who gets the Psy Stretcher, and then hopefully you'll use it for a few weeks and send me an update of your progress, because I'd love to hear how this works out for you. So once more, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe my channel. It really does help my channel grow and reach more people. And please do tell me in the comments below how these videos help you or what you want to see next. I love nothing more than to hear positive stories about how these videos have helped people and to make new videos that are going to help you moving forward. So thanks for watching and see you next time.